Hello, everybody. How's it going? Hope we're doing really well. I am really excited about today's discussion. I think it's so important. It's a tough one. I just think that it's a really important one, though. So I'm really excited to share it with you. It wasn't my original intention, actually, to talk about this today. I was going to talk about circular economy and the donut economy. I'm not sure if you've heard of those terms, but I decided after the release of the IPCC report that this is a really important topic, and I hope that it is informative and inspiring. I'm really excited to share it with you. And if you saw my posts early in the week, I did talk about how it was a difficult report to read and about the outcomes. I mean, it's stuff that I'm aware of, but some of the facts became a lot more clear and harder to digest. And so it took a little while to get over it, but I'm really excited to transform that negative feeling and that feeling of sadness and anger into something positive. And so hopefully this is an informative session today that we can discuss this report. I'm just going to check that I'm actually live everywhere. Always an important part of all of this. Awesome. Yeah, I'm good. I'm live. Amazing. So thanks so much for joining me today. We're going to be talking about the IPCC report and really the fact that it has made it clear human impact is an indisputable cause of climate change. And, I wanted to kind of share a story. I think growing up, I've always been passionate about the environment and the well-being and the state of Mother Nature and her creatures. And so I remember growing up, especially in high school, hearing that, the science is saying maybe it's human impact. Well, a lot of the science was saying it was human impact that was causing climate change. But there was also a lot of evidence out there that was disputing that, and a lot of people publicly speaking out against the science. And so it's really interesting to see how it's changed so much since then. And only in the last, really 10 years, it's become really clear that it's actually human activity that is a direct impact on climate change. So it's a really good opportunity to start rallying and listen to peak bodies and peak authorities in the space. So if you don't know who the IPCC are, they're the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. They're a peak authority in this space, and they provide that science-based evidence around the causes and effects of climate change. So their latest report was released on Friday. It's the 6th report in this their series of reports that they're releasing around this. And so it really highlighted these issues and what the last decade of increasing temperatures has seen and the indisputable evidence around the human impact on these changes. So it's a really good time, in fact, that they've released it, because there's the upcoming COP26 climate talks that are happening in November. And so it's given global leaders a gold standard to set their commitments towards, and so really respond properly and effectively with their national commitments around climate change and what they're going to do in terms of carbon emissions. So that's what the IPCC really here to do, is to impart clear science-based evidence that will help leaders in their governance and their policies and start to change the way we do things. So some of the hard things about the report is really that we are in an absolute state of an emergency, and it's deepening rapidly. And so some of the things, we've heard the terms that we need to limit temperature increases to 1.5 degrees or even 2 degrees above pre-industrial levels. So it's really important to know, what does pre-industrial mean? And really with pre-industrial, it's a little bit dynamic. There are different timeframes for what people consider pre-industrial. But just to give you a little fun fact here, in 1784, James Watt, who invented the steam engine, kind of marked the start of this era. And so, when he invented the steam engine, it gave us a way to convert fossil fuels into energy, thereby giving us opportunity to increase the CO2 levels in our atmosphere. And so the pre-industrial period is considered anywhere between 1720 to 1900s. Well, that's really the period from where industrial revolution started to happen. And so, what we have today in terms of industry-sized processes that help us generate products and food and various services and so on is really what we've established today. And so pre-industrial is the baseline that we're trying to limit our temperature increase to. So 1.5 degrees is the critical target, because once we go beyond 1.5 degrees, certain natural tipping points will actually become increasingly possible and irreversible at that point. So we're really trying through these climate summits and climate talks and the IPCC reporting and science-based evidence to limit global temperatures beyond increasing 1.5 degrees post pre-industrial levels. If we get to 2 degrees, the results will be a lot more extreme for obvious reasons. That 0.5 degrees can see extreme critical temperatures that will have huge impacts on agriculture and health. So some of the facts within this report was that they actually evaluated the human-based activities and found that our activities are responsible for roughly 1.1 degrees of warming since the pre-industrial levels. And when they carried out some simulations on this, the 1.5 degree mark, they believe, is likely to exceed between 2025 and 2037. So starting in the next 4 years or so, which is crazy, less than 4 years, that we will actually start to get into that 1.5 degree mark of temperature increase. And that is worst case scenario if nothing happens now. And when I say nothing, it's not so much that nothing is happening, it's that it needs to happen very rapidly and aggressively and progressively. So all the things in a positive way towards reducing our emissions. And what the report was saying is that the Paris Agreement, which is really a big part of what started all of this and the real global rallying around this, is if we're wanting to meet the Paris goals, and if we're wanting to even meet 50% of the Paris goals, there's a carbon budget that they've set aside. It's around 500 billion tons of CO2. So that's how much we have left to use if we're wanting to meet the Paris Agreement goals. But at the current rates, if we continue to operate at the current rates, we will end up using this budget within 12 years. So they're really putting that hard science behind, through simulation, through mathematical analysis and calculations, they're really putting the hard science behind why we're actually going to hit these targets or these benchmarks that we don't want to hit. So 1.5, 2 degrees, we really don't want to hit. And so they've really given a clear outline of what that roadmap is going to look like if we don't take action. For those of you, who kind of follow the news quite actively, you would have seen, in the last even 10 years, it's been a lot more rapid, but probably the last 20 years, we've been seeing a lot more increases in natural disasters. And so the temperature increase is absolutely the biggest issue around climate change. It's a direct correlation to increased carbon in the atmosphere. But there are a lot more natural disasters that are increasingly happening. And with the temperature increases, these are just going to exacerbate. So we're going to see, more intense rainfall in tropical regions, and then more drought in the dry countries, such as Australia. Or in the coastal regions, you're going to see, certain islands start to actually disappear or submerge underwater. We're already seeing some of the Pacific islands lose landmass as a result of increasing water levels. Of course, we have always heard about the ice melting and the polar bears losing habitat, but there's a lot of oceanic changes in the ecosystems as well. Ocean acidification, there's so many issues that are related to the temperature increases and the increase in carbon in our environment. I think even quite recently, I know I was following the particular news trail in India, but in Europe, China and India, there were extreme flooding. There was toxic smoke plumes in Siberia from toxic fires. There are wildfires running rampant in the US, Canada, and Turkey. And this is only in the last few months. So we're seeing these events happening a lot more frequently. And whether you follow it in the news or just in your local area, it's kind of clear to see that even in our local areas, there are a lot more things happening that are a direct result of climate change, and they're happening a lot more frequently than they were before. So, it's you could kind of get into the details of this report and really get caught up in the details of it. But we want to encourage people to do more and to do better. And so I think I want to talk about where this is an opportunity. So as part of the summits that they hold for the global leaders to talk about climate change and their actions, part of that is for them to, each of the nations, to submit an NDC. And so what an NDC is a nationally determined contribution. So each country has essentially the NDC is a trademark of the Paris Agreement, and each country has to submit their own NDC. And it's essentially their official pledge and their action plan of how they're going to embody the goals of the Paris Agreement and in alignment with what their country is going to do to adapt and respond to the impacts of climate change. So a bunch of NDCs were submitted at the start of this year, and many actually fell short of what the science-derived response wants them to do. So what the science is telling them to do and what they're saying they will do, there's actually quite a big gap. And so with this recent IPCC report being released, it's an opportunity for all the governments to really reassess their NDCs and ensure that their action plans are directly related to that 1.5 best case scenario degree increase, or avoiding that increase. So the 1.5, as I said, is really the best case scenario that we want to, avoid the temperature increase to 1.5 pre-industrial levels. 2 degrees is the absolute worst. So, and even when I say best case, it's still not really a good thing. But what we want to do is avoid it hitting that level, and that's our minimum threshold. So this is a really great opportunity for governments. But I understand that the IPCC is a direct relation to what our governments are doing and how our governments are choosing to act. And so, sorry, I'm just checking I'm still live. But what I want to really highlight here is it's important at an individual level, and it's important at a business level, at a community level. We're all in this together, and we all need to start acting. And so I wanted to actually share something with you guys. Give me a second. While I do so, I just wanted to say, with businesses, it's an opportunity to start acting, to start talking about how you can shift your business operations towards a low carbon operation. That's the key term here, is low carbon. We all have a carbon footprint at an individual level and obviously at a business level. No matter what you do in business, you've got a carbon footprint. And that's because, you're doing something that is using energy or converting energy or using resources or producing waste. So in some way, shape or form, your operations are producing an impact on the environment. And so it's really important to start talking about that in your business and start making clear, accountable and measurable. Key word here is measurable goals that the community can hold your business accountable towards, and you can hold yourselves accountable towards taking action on those goals to shift your business operations towards a low carbon operation. And so the thing that I'm sharing with you here is really for an individual level. It can definitely be used for some businesses, I would presume, maybe some certain simplistic operational businesses, and you can use this to calculate what your carbon footprint is. And so I will share this link in the comments, but I'll also share a couple of other links around the IPCC report if you're interested in looking into it further, and what the Climate Council, which is an Australian-based peak body, has had to say on the IPCC report. So I'll share this with you, but I think this calculator is a really great opportunity to start measuring your carbon footprint, but also look at the different ways to reduce your carbon footprint through the way you purchase food, the way you shop, the way you use energy, and how we travel. I know personally, both on a personal basis as well as in my business, I'm looking at how I can avoid excessive or unnecessary travel. So yeah, it's a really cool way to kind of quantify it. And also I think it could be really fun, especially if you have children, to get them involved and engaged in this. I think it's quite an interactive calculator. So have a look through it. I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance to look through it myself, but I've heard some good things. So have a look through it, and yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity to start quantifying our individual carbon footprint as well as our business footprint, and start finding ways to reduce that, and thereby reducing our impact on the environment. Because the key goal here is shifting our entire economy towards a low carbon economy, ideally a net zero economy. And at that point, once we get there, we're essentially saying that human activity is no longer releasing carbon emissions onto the environment without offsetting them in a positive way. So positive offsetting could be either through green projects, planting trees, carbon sequestration projects that extract carbon out of the environment. So there are sort of a bunch of things that we need to consider. And the problem is complex, but if we're all in this together, talking about it, ensuring it's front of mind, we can really start rallying in this space. So yes, I really wanted to share this with you. I hope it's been positive. I know there's some deeply sad things in this report to be confronted with, but it's also very important for us to Muradin, I will absolutely share that calculator with you, and a few other links that you might find useful. So, I know that the report is definitely confronting. I found it confronting myself. Although I know a lot of this already, it's definitely confronting. So I think it's a great opportunity to share it with you all in a positive way, because we can still take action now and not wait for our governments to start acting. Let's do it at an individual level. At a personal level, I can say I'm looking currently at making my house a plastic-free zone. So as much as I can in terms of food, especially. I do it in a lot of other ways already, but food is one thing that I struggle with. Those of you who may know, I love chips. Chips is one that I struggle with. So making my house a plastic-free zone is really important. And that's not to say I'm moving towards paper products either, because they both have their own carbon footprint and probably in some instances worse than plastic. But the idea here is moving more towards zero packaging, like buying bulk, using containers, using tote bags, all of that kind of fun stuff, and going to the farmers markets. So yeah, that's my personal journey. I'm sure I'll share some stuff about it along the way. But yeah, I hope this has inspired you and encouraged you to talk about it more in your businesses and in your lives. And if I can be of any help and answer any questions, let me know. Would love to chat, and I will share those links as promised. So thank you so much for joining me on your Wednesday evening. I'm thrilled to have had you here for episode 12. And next week we'll be having a guest. I'm really excited to introduce you to her. Incredible woman who is very active in the fashion space, eco-fashion in particular. So I will share details about that in the next few days, possibly over the weekend. So look out for that. And if you haven't caught or if you're interested in catching some of the past episodes of FemGineer Chats, I'll also link my YouTube channel. That's where we have we have the past episodes that were recorded, uploaded onto YouTube. So you can easily grab them over there. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have an amazing evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are, and take care. And I will talk to you all soon.